Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to another video. In this one, we're going to be diving into a Thursday night football showdown slate. We got the Indianapolis Colts going to Houston and matching up against the Texans. It's going to be a really great game. We're doing something a little bit different, obviously. I brought along Joe from Sharp Sports Network. The link to their YouTube channel is in the description below, but they are fellow DFS analysts. They upload videos on YouTube and live stream on Twitch. Both of those links are going to be in the description. Again, make sure you go over there, drop a sub. Say what's up, Joe.
What's up, man? I'm excited.
Yeah, we're going to be breaking this down together. It should be pretty fun. We're going to try to do these probably more often in the future for some showdown slates. My Sunday Night Football showdown that I usually do, if you guys watch those, it will only be uploaded on the Sharp Sports Network YouTube channel. So make sure you get over there. You need to go sub. Again, the link's in the description below. Turn on the notifications. My normal Sunday video will not be uploaded to this channel. It will be on theirs and only theirs. So again, make sure you go show them some love. We're going to jump right into this one, though. Make sure you do leave a like on this video if you have not already. And then if you do have any questions, comments, or concerns for me, please leave them in the comment section below, whether it is Draftkings, FanDuel, Yahoo, any DFS site or season-long fantasy questions. I'm happy to give y'all advice when I can. Now, I normally like to start off here at the top of the salary line, but I also like to talk about a pretty standard cash approach. And I think we're on the same page here. We're not really going to be able to get away from these top three guys in cash, are we, Joe?
No, I don't think so at all. I think Deshaun Watson, Hopkins, and Brissett are pretty much locks.
And then obviously the consistency of Hopkins over the last 5 games, he's had double-digit targets in all 5. I think that with his upside and with the price, I mean, overall, I think he's probably my favorite captain for cash. How about you?
Yeah, I think so as well. I think you got to pair him with his pass catcher or with his
QB
passer. Yeah,
Deshaun
Watson. I think it's definitely the best play. Watson going into Indy last time didn't really have too much luck really, but at home he's averaging 24 fantasy points per game, averaging 33 throws per game. I think this is a great spot for Hopkins to really torch Indianapolis like he's been torching everybody all season. I think it makes a ton of sense to have him, and I think it makes a ton of sense to have Brissett going up against a pretty depleted Houston defense. No J.J. Watt, no Clowney. 26th in adjusted sack rate and only 22nd in quarterback hit rate. They're pretty much dead last in those categories. Brissett's going to have a field day. Without Marlon Mack, I think he's going to have to air the ball out a lot. I expect probably 30 to 40 passing attempts this game, especially in a Houston team who really plays fast when the Colts are typically known for just, slowing down the game, playing the run. But without Marlon Mack, I think they're going to have to air the ball out a lot, which brings Brissett's floor up quite a bit.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. The last 2 full games he's played, because obviously the Houston game was the third most recent, but the Denver game and the Jacksonville game, both very solid secondaries, but we saw Marlon Mack turn into that absolute workhorse that he is. He's been that all year, but they really relied on him in those 2 games, and Brissett only threw for 24 and 25 total pass attempts in each of those 2 games. So I think with him off the field, we're going to see a lot more from Jacoby Brissett in terms of total pass attempts, and I definitely am not going to be getting away from him in cash, but that's only going to leave us with 38-33 average remaining player. Is there any of these cheap guys down here, sub 4K, that you're really looking at in cash as a viable play? And obviously we have T.Y. and Will Fuller both questionable tonight still.
Right. T.Y. is projected to be back, which only helps Brissett a little bit more. His floor without T.Y. is pretty much dead last in terms of quarterback rating. So now that he gets him back, I expect Brissett to really spread the ball out a little bit more, which makes me like Chester Rogers in the slot without Paris Campbell. I think Chester Rogers at 2.6K. He really doesn't need much to get you that value. He's been averaging roughly 4 targets throughout the entire year, playing in the slot a majority of the time with T.Y. on the outside. They're really just going to have, a pretty easy time. I like Chester Rogers, and like I said, I know we said sub 4K, but I like Eric Ebron today in cash. With Justin Reed out for the Texans, I think they're going to really be able to attack the middle of the field, whereas T.Y. stays on the outside. I think Brissett's really just going to have to diversify where the ball goes today. So I like Chester Rogers here at 2.6K. It makes a ton of sense. I like Ebron. I believe he's 4.6K or 4.4K.
Yeah, he's
and then obviously we have both kickers who are always viable. Kaimi Fairbairn is definitely going to get a nod for me. I expect the Texans to score more points. I really want to correlate with his kicker. I think he makes a ton of sense. It's not going to be too tough to be able to get up to somebody like Ebron. I think this is a very balanced lineup today because we don't really know the status of the rushing core from the Colts. We have Jordan Wilkins, we have Jonathan Williams, and Nyheim Hines. Hines typically a pass catcher, but we have Williams and Wilkins who are projected to be workhorses, probably going to split the role. I expect Jonathan Williams to get more of a nod. So in cash games, if you're going to play one, it's probably going to be Williams for me if you can get up to him.
Yeah, I think that something like this is a pretty solid attempt for cash here or approach. I think that when you have this 5,100 left, it's kind of up to you. If Ebron, for any reason, does miss tonight, I expect him to be back. But if he does miss, Jack Doyle, I think, would be my preferred play here with the 5,100 left. I'm okay with leaving 700 on the table, of course, in a showdown slate. And then Duke Johnson also at 5K he's a very efficient runner, and he's getting the targets out of the backfield. You just got to hope he has 5+ like he's had in these previous games. Obviously, the Baltimore game was just a shit show overall. I mean, you can't really base a total play off of that most recent performance from Deshaun Watson. So,
right. And like one thing I want to make clear is I believe it's Marcus Johnson at 4.2K.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to play him today with TY coming back. Prior to this, he played 86% of the snaps the past 3 weeks. He was a very, very viable play the past 2 weeks, playing that many snaps. With TY taking the outside role, Pascal still in, and Chester Rogers sliding into the slot, I expect Marcus Johnson to take his usual wide receiver 4 role and just pretty much be a ghost on the field.
And the thing with him was, even when he's playing this, what did you say, 86% of the total snaps?
Yeah.
Even with him playing that, his target share wasn't like it wasn't that significant. So obviously he found the end zone last week on 4 targets. I'm just not necessarily on board with Marcus Johnson either. So, but that's what we're leaning towards in terms of cash games for this the showdown slate as of now. If we want to do, we always do talk about the GPPs a little bit more in depth. Who's going to be your favorite captain tonight? Because I think we're probably going to be on the same page here.
Yeah, I think T.Y. Hilton makes the most sense at captain, only because it's very risky coming off an injury, calf injury for 3 weeks. I expect him to be a go. I expect him to be pretty solid this week. He's torched Indy in the past. But I just think that T.Y. Hilton paired with Brissett makes a ton of sense for tournaments. I think T.Y.'s price is a little too high to be considered a cash game play when he's just narrowly behind Brissett, who has such a higher floor.
Exactly.
So I think if you pair these two guys, and you probably could throw in Hop, you could probably get Hopkins in there for tournament. I think he's viable for both just because of his upside. I think it makes a ton of sense. You're left with 4.7K. I think you can definitely play a kicker. I would probably play Nyheim Hines in tournaments. I would probably play Kiki Kuti in tournaments as well, just because those guys are super high upside plays with very low floors, which makes them pretty low owned. Like I said, the spread on this game is 4.5 in favor of the Texans. If the Colts are going to have to play from behind, Nyheim Hines is going to play 50 to 60% of the snaps, just trying to get those check down passes, maybe line up in the slot a few times. So Nyheim Hines makes for a pretty incredible GPP play.
I agree on Nyheim Hines totally, especially in this lineup. If we're taking D-Hop, we're basically trying to capture all of the Houston offense and just a couple players. If we're going with a more Indy heavy lineup here with Nyheim Hines, obviously, I look at Nyheim Hines not so much as a running back. I look at him as one of Jacoby Brissett's pass catchers in a game like this. So I definitely agree on that. And if the game stays close, and if Houston's winning, as I expect, that's probably the more common game script to expect on this game tonight. But definitely Nyheim Hines going to see uptick in snap count and hopefully in targets as well. So definitely like him as a solid tournament dart to take tonight. The big fade in this lineup obviously going to be Deshaun Watson. So in terms of the value, though, at 11.6, you're really going to need 27, 28 points out of him minimum to really make him worth playing. It's kind of like that Monday night game where it was the Chiefs-Chargers. My best lineup didn't even have Patrick Mahomes because of the overall value, not because he didn't score, top 3, top 4 in points, but in terms of salary. He just didn't crush that price tag.
Yeah, and I even think in GPPs you could probably fade Hop and Watson.
Yep.
You could probably fade them both and go for somebody lower like Will Fuller if he ends up playing.
Agreed.
But I think that, like we talk about game script, if the Colts are going to be from behind, they're going to be scoring the most points. Houston's just going to be running the ball. Maybe Carlos Hyde gets a few extra touches. They don't go too far, but if this game comes down to the third, fourth quarter and Houston's down by 14 points, they're going to be airing the ball out. There's going to be no running. So that kind of only favors GPP type plays.
Agreed. Definitely something that we're looking at tonight. And then also one little speculative approach is if Will Fuller is to miss this game, we could kind of start all over. And I really like we're both on the fence about this. I think Joe prefers Kenny Stills. I'm definitely going to lean towards Kiki Kuti just as a tournament dart, a cheap captain. I think we're both fine with either one if Fuller misses. But just for the price tag, if Kuti is that guy, I compare him to that Cody Latimer play on the Giants slate. I think it was like 3 weeks ago when Cody Latimer was just so cheap. We could get him at captain. He ended up scoring a touchdown. And then we can just jam in all of these top tier guys and then come back down and we could go with Kaimi Fairbairn. We could go with Vinatieri, Fells, Chester Rogers, any of these guys down here. So that's definitely one other approach, I think.
Right. And Kiki Cootie's definitely a deep ball threat as well. And like we talked about before, this Indianapolis, their whole zone strategy for defense is to do their best job to limit deep balls. They've only allowed 2 touchdowns over 40 yards this entire season. So somebody with deep ball threat, like if Will Fuller plays, he makes a pretty solid captain option, especially in tournaments if he ends up playing. I think it makes a lot of sense to try and have somebody who can really, capitalize on that like Tyreek Hill upside type of
stretch
play.
the field. I agree.
Yeah.
Well, let's jump over to here to FanDuel. And over here on FanDuel, one thing that I think we both noticed right out of the gate is some of this extreme price differences that we have on FanDuel compared to DraftKings. Obviously not a full PPR site and a little bit of a different scoring format altogether. But regardless, these prices, like Jonathan Williams, like 12.5 for him, Carlos Hyde at 13. Pretty crazy when you just jump from site to site and you see the difference there.
Yeah, I think that FanDuel really either relies heavily on recency bias or they are expecting Jonathan Williams to carry 70% of the load. Yep. If he does carry 70% of the load, he makes a ton of sense over here on FanDuel. Like I said, no PPR, so it doesn't really matter how many catches Hopkins gets. He needs to get in the end zone. It makes a ton of sense to captain Deshaun Watson here.
Yeah, I agree.
He has a ton of upside. You could even play Brissett as well, but I think the most abysmal pricing here is T.Y. Hilton. It's a little embarrassing to have T.Y. Hilton at the same price that Keenan Allen was on last Showdown Slate, and he ended up taking down the winning lineup.
Yep.
So I like T.Y. a lot here. You can just get Will Fuller at 6K. Or 8K.
But yeah.
It's just so cheap on these guys. I think you really load up on some of these cheap pass catchers and try and jam in maybe Brissett and Williams. Maybe you try and jam those two in.
And then the D-Hop fade, I'm about it. And then we could run this, and then we got basically Brissett and his number 1 option. We have Deshaun and his number 2 option. The guys, obviously, this is assuming that Will Fuller and T.Y. are both active. I think they both will be. But regardless, if they're not, then things would shake up a little bit. But ultimately, similar thought over here on FanDuel, though, kind of fading that DeAndre Hopkins play out because of that target volume that we see and all those catches. That's one of the things that makes him so attractive on DraftKings. And without that upside in terms of the target volume over here on FanDuel, you're really hoping for touchdowns. You're hoping for 100 plus. I'm definitely okay with trying to get away from him over here on FanDuel. Again, we did mention Brissett. I also think is viable at captain in a lineup like this. But then we could fill this lineup out with a lot of different guys down here. I mean, I'm okay with leaving the salary on the table and dropping to like Jack Doyle even.
Yeah, I think you could drop to Doyle. Pascal is definitely an interesting option. I think Kenny Stills would be my favorite. Probably at this price range, maybe Pascal. I think it's just really touchdown reliant, and Kenny still seems to be the most touchdown reliant guy in this lineup. He's very touchdown dependent. So it's just going to be really who you want to play. Because I personally don't play kickers on FanDuel. I think their prices are abysmal at 9 to 9K, 9 to 10K ish when you can get an actual position player who can get you way more points.
I mean, the ceiling on Stills compared to like Kaimi Fairbairn it's not even relative. I mean. You can get 2 or 3 touchdowns out of Kenny Stills on any given night, and then Kaimi Fairbairn, best case scenario, he kicks you like 350-yarders.
Right, and it's not even equivalent to what one of these receivers could do. I think that, Eric Ebron makes an interesting play if he plays. Cootie, even at that price, makes an interesting play at 7.5K. It's just you really have to kind of dissect who you would want. Like you said, you don't get as many players on FanDuel as you do on DraftKings. So you really have to decide if you want any running backs. If you don't at all, like I said, the only running back I would probably play is either Nyheim Hines or Jonathan Williams. I'm probably a full fade on Jordan Wilkins tonight.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And I think that if for any reason Will Fuller was to miss, we could, sneak in Kiki Cootie at 7.5 over here and then run it with like Nyheim Hines, who we said has a good game script. Obviously, not as high of a ceiling in the non-PPR format, but I'm definitely okay with him still, or even Zach Pascal leaving that 1K salary on the table. But any non-QB captains over here on FanDuel that we have interest in, or is that pretty much it? Because I lean towards Watson or Brissett and then differentiating myself down low. Definitely.
Yeah, I think actually T.Y. at captain is pretty interesting on FanDuel. If you're going to fade Watson and Hopkins, I think you can put T.Y. there, pair him with Brissett, and kind of just run it back and only play Will Fuller from the.
You think just Fuller? I was going to say Carlos Hyde maybe too, but either way.
You could play those. I mean, you could drop Fuller. You could run it up with Jonathan Williams, and then you can just play Carlos Hyde.
Then exactly. And you're basically going with the early Houston lead. Carlos Hyde gets that bulk of that work and all the touchdowns. Hopefully, you're captured by Will Fuller. And
I mean, the past three appearances against Houston, T.Y.'s caught a touchdown in every single one in at least 70 yards. So he has the upside there. I think it makes a ton of sense. And then you're just very reliant on Deshaun Watson and Hopkins having a similar story that it was last week in Baltimore.
I'm with it. Well, I hope you guys did enjoy this video. I think we're going to cut this one off here. But again, the link to the Sharp Sports Network YouTube and Twitch will be in the description below. Drop them a follow on Twitch. Drop them a sub on YouTube. Again, my Sunday Night Football Showdown video will only be available to you on the Sharp Sports Network YouTube channel. So make sure you don't miss that. I know a lot of you guys like to watch that video. So I hope you guys all show some love to Joe's channel. But thank you very much for coming on, Joe. And I think we're going to do this a lot more in the future.
Yes, sir. Hopefully each week we'll be able to do one of these. Appreciate it, man.
Awesome. Well, y'all have fun tonight watching the game, and good luck to everybody playing the Showdown slate tonight. Peace.